in a lot of silly videos on this channel pretending that I'm a superhero. But what are the chances that I really do have superpowers? In this week's video, I'm gonna find out. Before we really get things started, I just want to take a moment and say thank you to all of my Patreon patrons. Thanks to your guys' support, I was able to upgrade my lighting system just recently and it looks fabulous! So thank you so much for your support and just enabling me to continue to make these silly, awesome superhero videos. Thank you so much. We could not have done this awesome, cool stuff without you. And now back to the video. Hello super friends and welcome back to another episode of Superhero Saturday, where we talk about the arts of superheroes, storytelling, and so much more. My name is Annie and I will be the first to admit that I am not a numbers gal. Obviously, I'm very artistically creative and I love that kind of field of study. I'm an author, I'm a content creator, I'm a musician, I'm a videographer, I'm a digital artist, and generally speaking, just more in the right brain than the left. But in my time as an author, I have had to dabble just a little bit into the numbers side of things, specifically like to figure out if the stuff that I'm proposing is happening is even plausible. And I've discovered that I actually really love crunching the numbers on sociology and psychology. And as all lovers of superheroes are bound to wonder, I began thinking, what are the chances that I could have superpowers? So in today's video, we're gonna break it down with just my train of thought barreling down the tracks and trying to catch all the numbers as we go along. So let's get to it. And the first step we're going to do is kind of break things down so that we know what kind of numbers we want to be dealing with. For example, what is the definition of a superpower? For this, we're going to take a little look at the role-playing game Marvel Superheroes, which I didn't know about before I was researching for this video, and I totally want to play. The game gives us a really convenient 5-category system for determining sources of superpowers. According to the game, these are the 5 categories: altered humans, like Spider-Man, high-tech wonders, like Iron Man, and I'm not sure if this is in the game or not, but I assume that this includes magic that can be learned or wielded, like maybe Doctor Strange, mutants, like the X-Men, perfect example. I also want to include in this category genetic predisposition for magic, so like if you're a wizard like Harry Potter and you have magic blood in you, that would, you know, categorize you in this box. I wonder if Harry Potter joined the X-Men, what that would look like. Probably really weird. Robots, which would include characters like Vision, and a catch-all category that they call aliens, and that includes people like Thor and other characters that are basically non-human, non-robots. Now we are going to clarify just a little bit here because these are just humans or human-like people that have gone beyond the limitations of being a human. And this is opposed to a human that has gone to the absolute peak performance of, you know, humankind. For example, if we think about Batman and forget for a moment that he's the world's greatest detective, then really he's just a guy who has trained and disciplined himself to be a really, really good crime fighter in the way that he wants to be. He's pushed his mind and body to the extreme in this field, although he also has a ton of money and that kind of counts as a superpower too, so let's forget that too. One blogger even argued that Captain America's Steve Rogers isn't even technically a superhero because technically he doesn't have superpowers. His physique, strength, and endurance, while pushed to the limits by the super soldier serum, are still just designed to create an optimal human specimen, not to go beyond the limits that are already inherent in our biology. He is just the best physical example of what a normal human being could become, just in the span of a few minutes.
How'd you feel?
By that definition, he's not really a superhuman, but merely a top-notch human. Which I totally think is some fair logic, but what do you think, super friends? Comment down below if you want to argue this out. Now let's narrow down the categories just a little bit so we can think about them just as being superpowers. I just want to know if I could maybe try someday and then find myself leaping over tall buildings in a single bound. Not if my drawing computer suddenly became sentient and decided to take over the world. And not if a, space snail came down from the heavens and decided to slime the entire planet. So for this reason, we are taking high-tech wonders, robots, and aliens off the table. We're just dealing with altered humans and mutants, your basic superhero starter pack. All right, let's get some numbers together. There are approximately 7 billion people in the world today. You know what? Wait, that's way too big of a number for me to wrap my head around. Guess we can rule out super intelligence for me. Let's shrink that down just one more level and think about just the United States of America. That's 330 million people, and while that's still a huge number, that's a little bit more, I don't know, able to fit in my brain. Now let's take the first step in determining how many of these people might have superpowers. Arguably, if everyone had superpowers or if it was pretty common, we would know something about it. So let's shrink it down to saying 1% of these people have the ability to have superpowers. But that's still a pretty big number. If only 1% of Americans had superpowers, that would mean 3,300,000 people would be superpowered. That's more than the population of Houston or Chicago, and it is almost the population of Los Angeles. Can you imagine if everyone in LA had superpowers? That would be nuts. In fact, all of these people would fit into the state of Connecticut, or even Rhode Island, Montana, and Maine all combined. That's a freaking lot of people. So maybe 1 in 100 isn't the most realistic of odds. Let's find some ways to kind of cut this number down and maybe even be more realistic about what it means for people who are superpowered. In fact, let's count out all the people who are in the altered by science category. That's crazy anyway. And honestly, who has the money to buy super soldier serum these days? Not me. And now let's cut out all of the people who have, shall we say, latent superpowered genetics. After all, just because you have a mutant gene doesn't mean that it would necessarily manifest for you. It's like how some people have brown eyes and some people have blue eyes, and if a brown-eyed person and a blue-eyed person had a baby, it would most likely have brown eyes because the blue-eyed gene is recessive. And so if the brown-eyed gene is in the mix with that, even if there's a blue-eyed gene, it would get overridden by the brown-eyed gene. Unless the brown-eyed parent had a recessive gene for blue-eyedness, and when they got together with the blue-eyed person, they had 2 blue-eyed genes, and then they would manifest and make a baby with blue-eyed genes. If the baby has both recessive blue-eyed genes from both of the parents, then putting that together would mean that the baby would have blue eyes, even though one of their parents has brown eyes. I think I'm gonna stop the explanation there. Just go do your Punnett squares and get back to me. So let's say that all leaves us with 0.1% of the American population having manifest mutant superpower genetics. That's 1 in 1,000, and out of our 330 million people, that still leaves 330,000 superpowered people. All right, so that's smaller than our previous numbers, but you might not realize how prevalent that still is. That's almost the entire population of the city of Cincinnati, or even Pittsburgh. If you divide it up evenly by the 50 states, that's still 6,600 people per state with superpowers. In this case, it would still be more likely for you to have superpowers than it would be to live to be 100 years old, or to be struck by lightning, or to be killed by a falling meteorite. With the same odds, you have an equal chance of cracking open an egg and seeing 2 yolks in there. And if you were pregnant in the US, you would have an equally likely chance of giving birth to triplets or more, so it's rare but not completely improbable. Okay, we're getting off track just a little bit here. We still have 330,000 people with the possibility of having superpowers. But that doesn't mean that every superpower is, shall we say, useful. The most popular superpowers in our category so far include things like flight, super strength, a genetic predisposition for magic, etc., etc. These are all really practical tools when, say, fighting the bad guys, or saving people from disaster, or managing everyday life with ease. But if we also assume that every superpower has an equal chance to be less than useful, or a one-off, like becoming invisible but only in the dark, or ultra-fast aging but no age reversal, or the ability to turn into a squirrel but not back into a human, then we should probably cut our numbers in half. That means we're left with 165,000 Americans with superpowers. Okay, that's reasonable and rare. But with that number, we aren't taking into account one crucial factor, and that is age. Most characters with superpowers that we see in the comics are adults, but not senior adults, and definitely not kids. Unless you're the, teen with superpowers thing, which I don't necessarily think is the best idea. So let's take the percentage of different age demographics in the US and apply them to these numbers to see what we get. Let's break it down one more time. According to a recent US census, the number of Americans who are between the ages of 0 and 18 make up about 24% of the population. So if we apply that to our superhero number, that means there are 39,600 minors with superpowers. Still a lot of people that would fill up the whole football stadium at my college. In those same numbers, the percentage of people in America who are 65 and older is 13%. So that gives us 21,450 seniors with superpowers. But they're old, they've already lived a whole life with superpowers, so let's give them a break. That leaves us with the percentage of Americans who are between the ages of 18 and 64, and that is 63% of the approximate current population of the US. And if we apply those numbers to our number of superpowered individuals, that leaves us with 103,950 adults with superpowers. That's still a lot of people, because if you think about it, that's almost the population of Springfield, Illinois. And if each of these people were one word, they would fill out a whole standard young adult fiction novel, like the first book in the Fearless 9 series. And if we split that up evenly by the number of states in the Union, that leaves us with an average of 2,079 people with superpowers per state. And if my math is right, that means the chances of you being one of those superpowered adults is 0.000063%, or 1 in 158,729. Hey, those are still way better odds than winning big time at the lottery, so I'll take it. What do you think? Does this sound reasonable at all? Do you have any other numbers to throw at me so I can continue to process the idea of my potential for superheroism? Go ahead and pop those down in the comments below and we'll continue the conversation there. I hope you guys enjoyed this little brain teaser detour of mine. If you did, go ahead and give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more superheroic content every single Saturday. You can join the team by following us on social media or supporting us on Patreon. And if you want to see my own superheroes in action, which, spoiler alert, uses the same kind of formula for superpower rarity, then you can go over to our website at www.fearless9.com and pick up some books, which may soon be your new favorites. Thanks so much for watching, Super Friends, and we'll see you next week.